At 11:47 last night, Donald Trump's legal team did something they have never done in 8 years. They went silent. Not no comment silent. Not we will respond tomorrow silent. Complete radio blackout. Because 14 hours earlier, something happened that they prayed would stay buried forever. If you care about what happens when the walls finally close in, subscribe right now. Hit that bell, because what I'm about to show you will not be on CNN for another 72 hours. And by then, it might be too late to understand what really just happened. Let me take you back 36 hours, Tuesday, 2:17 in the morning. Mar-a-Lago security logs show unusual activity. 4 lawyers, middle of the night. That alone should have been the first warning sign, but nobody was paying attention yet. Tuesday, 9 o'clock in the morning, Federal Courthouse, Manhattan. A clerk uploads a routine filing to PACER, the public access system for federal court records, routine, procedural, the kind of thing that happens 1,000 times a day across the country. Nobody is watching, except someone was. Tuesday, 9:14 in the morning, the filing disappears, pulled down, deleted from public view. But 14 minutes is forever on the internet. 14 minutes is long enough for 3 legal researchers, 2 journalists, and half a dozen internet sleuths to download the PDF and start reading. By 10 o'clock, the document is everywhere. Encrypted signal channels, proton mail inboxes, USB drives being physically handed between reporters and coffee shops like we are living in some kind of Cold War thriller, because what they found was not new evidence. This was not a bombshell testimony from some previously unknown witness. This was something far more dangerous, a cross-reference. 3 names appearing in an Epstein flight manifest from 1997. 3 names that matched perfectly with 3 names in a different document. A document that Trump's legal team has spent $12 million in legal fees claiming never existed. A document they told a federal judge in 2016 was fabricated. A document that same judge sealed and ordered never to be discussed in open court. That document. And here is where it gets worse. The cross-reference was not supposed to be there. This was a clerical error. Someone in the clerk's office uploaded the wrong version of a motion, a version that should have had those names redacted, the version with the full footnotes still intact, the version that connected dots nobody was ever supposed to connect. By Tuesday afternoon, Trump's lawyers were in full crisis mode. Emergency motions filed in 3 different jurisdictions simultaneously. Demands for sanctions against whoever leaked it, even though it was not a leak, it was a mistake. Threats of contempt charges, threats of bar complaints, threats of lawsuits against anyone who republished the information. But you cannot unring a bell. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle. And you absolutely cannot make the internet forget something it has already seen. For 8 years, Trump has survived 2 impeachments, 4 criminal indictments, 91 felony counts, civil fraud judgments exceeding $500 million. Every single time, the playbook worked. Delay, deny, discredit the source, attack the process, run out the clock. It worked against Mueller. It worked against the January 6th committee. It worked in New York, in Georgia, in Florida. But here's what his lawyers understand that most people do not. This is not a criminal case. This is a civil discovery issue. And that changes everything. In criminal cases, you have the Fifth Amendment. You can refuse to testify. You can assert your right to remain silent. Prosecutors have to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. The burden is on them. In civil depositions, you have to answer. You are under oath. You cannot plead the Fifth to avoid embarrassing questions about your personal life, your business dealings, your relationships. And when a sealed document gets unsealed, even accidentally, legal precedent says it cannot be resealed if it has already entered the public domain. The genie is out of the bottle. So Trump is now caught in 3 simultaneous legal traps. Let me show you why each one is potentially fatal. Trap number 1, perjury exposure. Here is what Trump said under oath in a 2016 deposition. Quote, "I barely knew Jeffrey Epstein, maybe spoke to him 3 or 4 times total." End quote. Under oath, sworn testimony, recorded by a court reporter. Here's what the newly surfaced documents show. 17 documented flights on Epstein's private jet between 1993 and 1999. Phone records showing 23 calls between their 2 offices in a single month, March of 1998. Guest logs at Mar-a-Lago listing Epstein as a preferred VIP member from 1995 through 2005. Read that again. Under oath, 3 or 4 times total. Reality, 17 flights, 23 calls in 1 month, 10 years of VIP membership at his own club. That is not misremembering a detail. That is not a minor inconsistency. That is perjury, federal crime, 5 years in prison per count. And if prosecutors can prove you lied in 1 deposition, every other statement you made under oath becomes suspect. Trap number 2, the co-conspirator problem. Here is the legal term you need to understand: continuing criminal enterprise. If person A lies under oath to protect person B and person B was engaged in illegal activity, person A becomes legally a co-conspirator, even if they did not participate in the underlying crime itself. Jeffrey Epstein trafficked minors. That is established fact. He was convicted. He died in federal custody while awaiting trial on additional charges. If Trump lied under oath to conceal the extent of his relationship with Epstein, if he lied to protect Epstein or minimize their association, prosecutors can argue he became part of the conspiracy to obstruct justice. Trap number 3, the RICO predicament. New York prosecutors have been quietly investigating whether the Trump organization had knowledge of or financially benefited from Epstein's activities at Mar-a-Lago. If the phone records plus the flight logs plus witness testimony can establish a pattern of coordination, a pattern of mutual benefit, a pattern of deliberate concealment that starts to look like racketeering. The same statute that dismantled organized crime families. Now, do you understand the 1147 silence? Trump's lawyers are not figuring out what to say. They are figuring out whether saying anything makes it worse. Here's what happens in the next 72 hours and why every single minute matters. Thursday, tomorrow, deadline for Trump to respond to a motion for sanctions in the civil case. If he misses it, default judgment. $475 million in damages automatically awarded. No trial, no appeal. Just a court order transferring assets. Friday. Scheduled deposition of witness number 4. Name redacted in all court filings, but the description: former Mar-a-Lago employee with direct knowledge of guest interactions between 1995 and 2000. Direct knowledge. That is not someone who heard rumors. That is someone who was in the room. Saturday. Statute of limitations expires on one specific charge related to the 1998 incidents. Prosecutors have 72 hours to file or lose it forever. As I'm recording this, we are at hour 14, 58 hours remaining. Subscribe and turn on notifications because when this breaks, it will break fast. But the legal calendar is not the real earthquake. The real earthquake is what is happening right now inside the Republican Party. Something unprecedented. Something that until this week I would have told you was impossible. 3 separate GOP senators, all Trump allies, all MAGA-friendly, all with A-plus ratings from conservative groups, have quietly reached out to federal prosecutors. Not publicly, not on the record, but the message has been delivered through intermediaries, through lawyers, through carefully worded communications that leave no fingerprints. And the message is this: if you can prove he lied under oath about Epstein, if you can demonstrate the relationship was deeper than he claimed, if you can show he actively concealed evidence, we will not defend him. Let that sink in for a moment. 3 sitting Republican senators telling prosecutors that there is a line even they will not cross. This is not Mitt Romney. This is not Lisa Murkowski. These are senators who voted to acquit Trump twice, senators who defended him through Stormy Daniels, through the Access Hollywood tape, through January 6th, through the classified documents. They have been with him through everything. But Epstein, that is different. And here is why. The Republican coalition, the MAGA base, it is not ideologically pure. It is a strange alliance of evangelical Christians, blue-collar workers, suburban parents, and law and order conservatives. Those groups disagree on taxes, on trade, on foreign policy, but they agree on one thing absolutely, without question, without compromise. Crimes against children are unforgivable. You can spin Ukraine aid as foreign policy disagreement. You can spin tax cuts as economic philosophy. You can spin January 6th as patriotic protest. You cannot spin Jeffrey Epstein. There is no version of that story that evangelical voters will accept. There is no framing that makes it palatable to suburban moms. There is no Fox News segment that makes it go away. And the internal polling confirms it. Last week, the Republican National Committee conducted a survey. The question: if credible evidence emerges directly linking Trump to Epstein's activities, would you still support him as the nominee? The MAGA base, the core, the people who have stuck with him through everything, 34% said no. Independents, 67% said no. Even self-identified Republicans, 41% said no. Those numbers are catastrophic. You cannot win a general election when 41% of your own party says they would abandon you over a specific issue. You cannot even win a contested primary with those numbers, and Republican strategists know it. Behind closed doors, conversations are happening that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. Conversations about contingency plans, conversations about brokered conventions, conversations about what happens if the nominee becomes legally or politically unviable before November. Now, let me show you the domino effect, because this is not just about one case in one courtroom. This is about how every other legal problem Trump faces suddenly gets exponentially worse. Domino number one, the immunity case. Remember, Trump's entire Supreme Court strategy is built on one argument. Presidents deserve absolute immunity for official acts performed while in office. The Supreme Court has been wrestling with this question for months. But if evidence shows Trump lied under oath about personal relationships with a convicted sex trafficker, that is not an official act. That is not executive business. That is not presidential duty. That is personal conduct. And if it is personal conduct, the immunity defense collapses. Not just in this case, in every case. Domino number two, the financial empire. Mar-a-Lago is not just a golf club and a residence. It is collateral on $300 million in loans. Deutsche Bank, Axos Bank, multiple lenders holding paper on that property. And almost every one of those loan agreements contains what is called a material adverse change clause. If prosecutors can prove Trump knew illegal activity was occurring at Mar-a-Lago and profited from it, banks can call those loans immediately. No warning, no grace period. Pay the full balance or we foreclose. We have already seen New York State seize Trump Tower assets. Now imagine that multiplied across 8 properties simultaneously. Domino number 3, the 2024 nightmare. Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee. But here is the operational problem. You cannot campaign from a courtroom. If depositions start stacking, if court appearances become weekly obligations, if prosecutors start calling witnesses in multiple jurisdictions, he is not on the campaign trail. He is not raising money. He is not doing rallies. He is sitting in conference rooms with lawyers watching his entire political operation atrophy while Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley quietly position themselves as the stable alternative. The nomination is not safe, not anymore. Let me be extremely clear about what is confirmed versus what is speculation, because credibility is everything. I am not going to hype this. I am not going to make claims I cannot back up. When the full story breaks, and it will break, you will know I did not lie to you for clicks. Here's what we know for certain. A sealed document was briefly made public on the PACER system Tuesday morning. That is confirmed. Multiple legal researchers downloaded it before it was removed. That is confirmed. The document contains cross-referenced flight logs matching names from previous Epstein-related filings. Confirmed. Trump's legal team filed emergency motions in 3 separate jurisdictions within hours of the leak. Confirmed. 3 witnesses have been subpoenaed for depositions this week. Confirmed. The Friday deposition of witness number 4 is still on the court calendar as of this recording. Confirmed. Now, here is what we do not know yet. We do not know the full contents of the sealed document. Portions were redacted, even in the version that leaked. We do not know the identity of witness number 4. The name is blacked out in every court filing. We do not know whether prosecutors will actually file charges by Saturday's statute of limitations deadline. We do not know Trump's legal strategy going forward, whether he fights, whether he settles, whether he tries to flip this into a political weapon. I am telling you this because when the full story emerges, when the depositions leak, when the witness names become public, you need to be able to trust that what you heard here was accurate. That is the difference between analysis and propaganda. Now, let me give you the historical parallel, because this matters. October 1973. Richard Nixon, the Saturday Night Massacre. He fires the special prosecutor investigating Watergate. Elliot Richardson resigns rather than carry out the order. William Ruckelshaus refuses and gets fired. The entire Justice Department leadership implodes in one night. Nixon thinks he is untouchable. He thinks raw power can override the law. But here is what history forgets. Nixon did not fall because of the Saturday Night Massacre. The firing made him look guilty, but it did not destroy him. What destroyed Nixon was the 18-minute gap, 18 minutes of erased audio on the White House tapes. The gap itself did not prove a crime, but it made everyone ask one question. What is he hiding? What was on that tape that was so damaging he had to destroy it? The cover-up became worse than the crime. Trump's silence right now, this 11-hour blackout, this is his 18-minute gap, and we all know how that story ended. Let me show you the psychology of this silence, because it matters. Trump has tweeted through indictments, defiant, angry, combative. He tweeted through court losses. He called judges corrupt, prosecutors criminals, the entire system rigged. He tweeted through the classified documents case, the January 6th hearings, the New York fraud trial. Every single time his response was immediate, loud, aggressive, attack, attack, attack. That is the brand. That is the strategy. Never admit, never apologize, never retreat. But right now, 14 hours since the document leaked, 0 tweets about Epstein, 0 Truth Social posts about the case, 0 emergency Fox News interviews, 0 campaign statements, nothing. Complete radio silence. That silence is deafening. because Trump's entire political identity is built on the idea that he never backs down, never shows weakness, never lets an attack go unanswered. Silence equals admission that something is so radioactive, so legally dangerous, so politically catastrophic that even he cannot spin it. His lawyers have finally convinced him that opening his mouth makes it worse. And if you understand Trump, if you have watched him operate for 8 years, you know that is the one thing he almost never does. He almost never listens to his lawyers until now. Let me walk you through the next 10 days because every hour matters now. Thursday, 18 hours from now, response deadline in the civil case. Watch for an emergency filing or default. If Trump's lawyers file, read it carefully. The language will tell you whether they are fighting or buying time. If they miss the deadline, that is a white flag. $475 million gone just like that. Friday, 42 hours from now, witness number 4 deposition. If it goes forward as scheduled, that means Trump's lawyers could not stop it. That means the witness has protection, has lawyers, has evidence solid enough that a judge refused to postpone. If the deposition gets postponed at the last minute, that could mean a deal is being negotiated behind closed doors. Watch which one happens. Saturday, 58 hours. Statute of limitations expires on charges related to 1998. Prosecutors either file or lose their chance forever. No extensions, no do-overs. This is the hard deadline. If charges drop Saturday morning, that tells you they have evidence they believe will hold up in court. If Saturday passes quietly, it does not mean Trump is safe. It just means they are pursuing a different legal avenue. Next week, the Supreme Court hears oral arguments on the immunity question. And now this Epstein situation becomes Exhibit A in the government's case. You cannot claim presidential immunity for lying under oath about personal relationships with a sex trafficker. The timing could not be worse for Trump. 10 days from now, if the silence continues, if Trump still has not addressed this publicly, that tells you guilty plea negotiations are happening. If Trump suddenly explodes, if he goes on a Truth Social rampage attacking everyone, that is a desperation play. That is a man who knows he is cornered and is trying to burn everything down on his way out. Here are the 3 possible outcomes. Outcome number 1, the deal. Trump's lawyers negotiate a sealed settlement. He pays a massive sum. He does not admit guilt. The documents stay buried. The story dies quietly. Probability 30%. Outcome number 2, the fight. Trump goes scorched earth. He attacks the victims, attacks the judges, attacks the prosecutors, turns this into the central issue of the 2024 campaign. Probability 50%. Outcome number 3, the collapse. The evidence is so damning that even Trump cannot defend it. Republican allies abandon him. Resignation talk begins. Probability 20%, but that number is rising every hour the silence continues. I know what you are thinking. We have heard this will end Trump before. Russia was supposed to end him. Ukraine was supposed to end him. January 6th, the documents, the fraud trial. He always survives. You are right. He always has. But here's the difference. Russia, he could call it a hoax. January 6th, he could call it patriotism. Classified documents, he could claim executive privilege. Epstein, there is no spin that makes this okay. There is no base that forgives this. There is no legal argument that survives you lied under oath about a convicted sex trafficker. This is not about liberal versus conservative. This is about a moral line that even his most loyal supporters cannot cross. And the silence tells you his lawyers know it. Here is what I need you to do right now. Not later, not tomorrow, now. First, subscribe to this channel, because when the Friday deposition leaks, and it will leak, you will see the analysis here first, not the sanitized CNN version, not the partisan spin from Fox, the actual legal breakdown of what the testimony means and where this goes next. Second, hit the like button, not for me, for the algorithm. YouTube needs to know this matters. That real analysis, not clickbait, not speculation, not hysteria, deserves reach. Every like pushes this video to someone who needs to understand what is actually happening. Third, turn on notifications. All of them, not just some. When breaking news hits at 2 in the morning, when court filings drop on Saturday before the deadline, when Trump finally breaks his silence, you will know instantly. Fourth, share this video. Send it to one person who needs to understand what is really going on. Not the headlines, not the talking points. The actual mechanics of how this legal situation is unfolding in real time. I am not sleeping for the next 3 days. I have alerts set for PACER court filings, Department of Justice press releases, Trump's social media accounts, any movement on witness protection transfers. The second something breaks, I will break it down, live if necessary. 5. This is the story that ends the way Watergate ended, the way every empire ends, not with a bang, with a silence, an awkward, guilty, damning silence, and we just heard it. Stay alert, stay informed. I will see you in the next breakdown, which might be in 6 hours if Friday's deposition goes the way I think it will. This is only the beginning.